Couple Hawaiian FM 100.3, 99.1, and online at couplerradio.com. Speaking again with our friends, the County of Hawaii, our Hawaii Police Department. Joining me today on Couple Hawaiian FM is Officer Jason Foxworthy. Good morning, Officer Foxworthy. How are you?
Good morning, Kaea. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing well.
You know, I've been looking forward to speaking with you today with the new campaigns that you folks have for the holiday season. What kind of campaign is the Hawaii Police Department doing in regards to the upcoming holidays?
So for the upcoming holidays, we're trying to make sure that our roads are safe. So we're doing some impaired driving campaigns. One is no excuse for anyone that has any type of impairment, just to find alternative methods to driving so that everyone else on the roadway is safe. Another one is if I feel different, then I drive different. So it's basically bringing awareness to people that when they're enjoying the festivities of the holidays, whether it's drinking, using prescription medications, or any other type of drug use, to be responsible and make sure that if they feel different, they don't choose to drive and endanger everyone else on the roadways.
You know, can we pause real quick for a minute? Because I was speaking with a friend the other day, and we were going back and forth about the word impaired. In when we read the media context of accidents on Hawaii Island roadways. Can you give me a definition of what impaired means? Like, according to how you guys do your police reports, what does impaired mean?
Sure. So by the Hawaii Revised Statutes definition, impairment is when you can no longer operate a vehicle in a careful and prudent manner due to the presence of some type of drug, whether it be alcohol or another type of drug. So
Okay.
impairment is what happens when you're mentally and physically unable to operate a vehicle safely within the definition of DUI.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for that, because we were going back and forth on what really is impairment. Now, with that being said, what are some of the traffic statistics around the island? I know that it's been a really rough month for us.
Sure. So actually, since the start of this year, we're at a count of 24 traffic fatalities. 24 people have lost their lives in vehicle crashes. Compared to last year, where at the same time this year, it was about 14. So we're up quite a bit. Further, since earlier this week, we have over 680 major traffic crashes, which means people were severely injured or vehicles were significantly damaged. That's what constitutes a major traffic crash. And that's also at an increase from last year.
Wow. So what are some of the things that the Hawaii Police Department wants the public to know about impaired driving?
So about impaired driving, what makes it dangerous is that it takes longer to respond to unexpected things. So going back to those statistics, of those 24 crashes, 7 of them were related to drugs, 1 to alcohol only, and 3 of them were a combination of drugs and alcohol. So as you can see, there's a big correlation between impaired driving and crashes. Also, factors were speeding and not using seatbelts, which are all things that people have control of with regard to being responsible when driving, to make sure everyone is safe on the roadways, including themselves and other drivers. Impairment is very dangerous because it lengthens the time it takes a person to react, which in driving terms calculates into further distances traveled, sometimes at highway speeds before vehicles can stop and avoid collisions.
You know, I was, again, going back to the statistics in the last, maybe month, 6 weeks. A lot of what I've read that comes through COPPA, when we get those notices, the word impaired was in there. Lots of impairment. And I think, many of us don't think, oh, nah, it's just one, or nah, not going to happen to me, or you know what I'm saying? And so, unfortunately, you have a lot of expertise in this area.
Yes, unfortunately, I've experienced firsthand many families that feel differently than the person who is contemplating driving, if they're impaired or not. Unfortunately, there's no way to put a price on the loss of life, and it's not just the person who passes, but also their families, friends, extended families are forever impacted by this tragic loss that was totally avoidable by being more responsible when we choose to exercise our privilege to drive.
And that's what it is. Yeah. I think we forget about that, the privilege to drive, the privilege to drive.
Yes, correct.
So the campaign No Excuses, you want to expand or share anything else about that that's happening during the holidays, or what people should do?
Sure. Sure. So there's a lot of different alternatives to driving impaired. No excuses is basically asserting that there is no excuse to drive impaired. We have so many other avenues to exercise, such as using taxis, Uber, Lyft, any other rideshare programs, just having an agreement with our friends or family to have a designated driver. And just keep in mind, designated driver doesn't mean the most sober driver. It means a completely sober driver, so that your
Mm,
friends and family can all partake and be safe.
that's a good one right there. What other safety tips, Officer Foxworthy, would you have for us for this holiday season?
Other safety tips would be to keep in mind that when we think about drugs, typically we think of illegal drugs. It's important to remember that prescription medications and over-the-counter medications are also considered drugs and do cause impairment. So we have to keep in mind, if we have those types of things we're taking, to make sure that we're responsible and not choosing to drive. Not to say you shouldn't be taking those things, just do so responsibly and make sure you're not driving to where if you feel different, you're going to drive different. Just consider that and make sure you come up with alternative ways to be responsible when taking your medications. Also, another consideration is if you are taking those types of things and you do drink, it's going to amplify the effects of both the drugs and alcohol on you, and you'll be even more impaired than you would had you just taken one thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Officer Foxworthy, it's been a pleasure speaking with you, and thank you for highlighting some of the things that many of us maybe not think we don't think about. But again, getting back to what our statistics are showing and what's been happening, and many of our families being impacted over the last year. Mahalo to the Hawaii County Police Department for all of your hard work.
Thank you so much. And if I could just say one last thing,
Please.
uh, a large part of what the police department does is dependent on the assistance of our community and the public. So just keep in mind, if you see anything dangerous, such as people trying to drive while intoxicated or impaired, or people weaving all over the road or driving dangerously, please call us. Please help us put a stop to this before something tragic, such as the loss of life or injury, occurs. We greatly depend on the public to help us with this mission to get the traffic fatality count down to zero. That's the only acceptable number, is zero.
And when we do that phone call, do we call the non-emergency line or can we call 911?
If they haven't started driving yet, you can probably call the non-emergency number, which is the 808-935-3311. However, if they are driving and it is a danger to everyone else, please do call 911 so that we can stop them before people are hurt or killed.
Mahalo. Mahalo nui. Have a great day, Officer Foxworthy. I appreciate your time with us today.
Thank you so much for your time, Kay. I really appreciate the opportunity.